Hi there, this is Alvin, and welcome to Kickstart Commerce. And as you can see today, I'm at a different location. Just look around, look at the background here. So, hey, you never know what could happen. You could hear somebody run around in the hallway. You could hear a multitude of things, phone ring. So just know that we're at a different spot today. And with me today, I have the fabulous husband and wife duo of Seth and Robin Perez. And so they are the founders of DroneGenius.org. And so today they're going to share a bit of their story and journey, and we're going to get into a little bit about their business model as well as why they chose to use DroneGenius.org. So, Seth and Robin, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for making time. And so, to kick things off, tell the listeners a bit about yourselves, your background, what you do, and what the journey has been like so far.
Well, I'm Robin, and I have been in education for a long time, and just always been the one making the decisions to help schools kind of make sure that they're offering premium activities and ways for children to just cultivate their talents. And so, just throughout this time, I've learned a lot. And always wanted to be able to offer and take everything that I've learned and create a program that we could put all of our ideas and what we've learned together as parents and as educators into play. And so, I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm excited to be doing it for DroneGenius now.
Seth, and yourself?
So, I am a one-trick pony. I'm Robin's husband. That's it. No, I love tech. I also am a creative. I've been doing music for a long time. I know a little bit about business. I've been blessed to be able to open some businesses with some friends and some family members over the years. I have a law degree, so I know just enough to get myself into trouble, basically. And I'm fascinated by tax law, so hopefully I'm able to kind of keep us out of trouble in that way. And I've never been an educator, but I've watched my wife for the last 15 years work in that industry. I've seen the ups and downs. I've also seen how great it is for kids once they find a product that really engages their little souls and their minds and their interest. And I've seen it help them just light up and flourish. And so that's why we're so excited about what we're able to do through DroneGenius.
All right, so I guess share with our listeners and watchers. So, how did DroneGenius come to be? Obviously, I would probably guess, since you said it's more of the tech side, that our dreamer over here came up with this idea, this thought.
So I would love to be able to say that it was my tech and dreaminess and all that stuff, but it was truly a God moment.
Awesome.
Our little boy, who was about 7 or 8 at the time, had been flying drones, little toy drones, for a few years, and I was always fascinated by them. I thought they were so cool, but I never connected the dots. I never thought for one moment that we should open a business dealing with drones or coding or anything like that. But one morning I woke up, I think it was a Saturday morning, and I just got a download, and I know it was God because I had never even thought about this concept. And
Wow.
He just gave me this concept, clear as day, to teach kids in elementary how to fly drones, how to do light JavaScript coding, and how to combine the two. I didn't even know that was a possibility.
Huh.
Did some research on my laptop, in the bed, in my pajamas, found that nobody had done it, but that there was some software that could kind of make it possible. And that thus began the journey.
Wow, and so now you don't have, I guess, a traditional software engineering background, right?
Not at all.
Okay, so then why in the world would you even go, hey, I'm going to climb that mountain of figuring out coding and whether or not you could combine or merge the two worlds
Right.
of the drone and...
So the tiny bit about coding that I know comes from a job that I held until just recently, where I was helping automate document processing. I'd begun to learn about JavaScript and how it can help with pretty complicated tasks that had a lot of human error involved, and it could cut out the possibility of human error. Don't worry, I'm not talking about robots taking over the world, but I kind of am. I saw the beauty of it.
Yeah, we just want, and I look at it and I go, we want to use automation in a way that helps people do their jobs better.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Essentially. And I go, hey, we're not out to to remove anyone per se, but I'm like, if the technology can do it better or help someone do it better, we're all for it.
Yeah.
We're all for it. And so then that began, so that bit of knowledge then coupled with, I guess, watching your son. Now, were you involved in terms of getting behind the proverbial wheel of a drone to I guess you'd say, start your own flight experience?
Yeah, I tried several times in those early years, and
And the results were
not good. Not good. I was the dad that ruined the day a couple of times, I think.
There were a lot of ladders involved.
Oh man,
So-
yes, a lot of ladders. There was a time where it wasn't my fault; it was our son's fault.
Of course.
He landed it on top of a 2-story building, and I had to get like some long wires and ropes.
Yeah, we
tied
didn't have a
all
ladder
together.
that
I
day.
lassoed it, got it down. Thank goodness. Yeah.
Wow.
So yes, I did. I tried, and I wasn't that great at it. But then when I figured out that there was some software that I could put on my tablet and learn how to kind of automate some movements and let the drone and the script do all the work, I saw that it was pretty easy and pretty magical.
Wow. Now at this point in the journey, you get the download from God. I guess, was your next step starting to research or actually attempting, I guess, a prototype or functional prototype of what you were hoping to build or achieve? And I guess where I'm going with this is that oftentimes people go, well, do I run out and start the business? Or what do I do? I mean, do I try to find customers first and then come back and formally start the business, or do I formally start the business and then just try to figure it all out?
Yeah.
So I think when this was February, when
2 years ago.
Yeah, February 2 years ago, and we were initially going to we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to run into someone else's lane
Right.
with this. And so it was important for us to do our research first to see, is this a thing? Are there people doing this? If so, how are they doing this? Are they profitable doing this? What holes, what pitfalls, what walls are they running into? And when we initially did our research just to see, is this even something that we could do, there was no one doing it. And so that was the first course of action. And then once Seth did the research and found out, okay, this is the program that we can use. And not only is this a program that we can use, is that they have a whole educator community. So the program that we use to help children code and that we use in our classes not only is out there, but it has so much support for me as the educator and for our teachers that teach, that give them ideas and tell them, okay, if you run into this problem, this is what you do. And there's blogs and we talk, and so it was like, okay, this is happening, there's no one else doing it, there's a whole lot of support out there. We found out how much the equipment was going to cost us, so that all happened relatively quick.
Wow.
Like I think within a week we had a lot of our answers resolved. And so initially we were going to just launch it because just from my background, these types of after school programs, we're like, okay, well, we've got to get a marketing plan together and we got to find some schools, so we'll march it in the upcoming fall school year. So this was February, and so we're like, okay, we'll take our time. Well, what had happened was
Enter Robin. Hold on. Note for the viewer. February. We were gonna launch in the fall. So we're gonna go a whole spring, a whole summer, and launch in the fall. Go ahead.
Press play.
Enter Robin.
So I feel like this is part of what makes me a successful businesswoman at this point.
It is.
I saw that we had the tools, we had enough resources.
Right.
I had enough drive. So it was like, well, how come we wouldn't? Why wouldn't we just start it
Right.
in the summer? Why not? And use the summer as an opportunity to just launch it and to see where the mistakes were, if there were any, or what we needed to change, and what our marketing strategy, how it would result and what it would look like for us. And so hence we started that June.
Wow. So wait. So February,
Yeah.
laying in bed, we get this idea. We start doing
Mhm.
research. All within a week, we figure out it is possible.
Yeah.
You likely can be profitable. There are no legalities that you or
Mm-mm.
snafus that you may run into.
That's right.
So then you start, I guess, playing around or experimenting. Now you tried this out or really you brought it to your son,
Yeah.
right? And a couple of his friends, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct.
To just try to work through and see, is there any interest in this?
Yeah.
And I guess the results from that was that
Perfect. They were wonderful. Yeah.
they
I
were
tried
interested.
it first late one night, fell in love with it. The next day, tried it with our son. Later that afternoon, tried it with our son and a couple of friends.
Mm-hmm.
They lit up right
Wow.
away. Kids did not know that they could do this.
Yeah.
And most of them had drones sitting in a closet
Mm-hmm.
on a shelf because they had gotten them for Christmas or a birthday
Right.
and had landed them in a tree and gotten frustrated and just threw them away
Just left it.
basically.
And we did a couple of camp fairs too. So like we did some local camp fairs. Camp fairs are basically to show parents what new and up and coming programs are out there.
Right.
And so that gave us an opportunity here in the Austin area to show parents, and it was also kind of like a beta test to see, are people even interested, or they're just going to walk past our booth.
Gotcha.
Well, we shut down the camp fairs. Like the other people were like, can DroneGenius can you put them in the corner because nobody's talking to us. So that was interesting because it gave people, we would let the kids come up to our booth and try it and see what we do and show them what the end result was. You know, this is some of the things that drones can do and what they're doing. And so we did a couple of those March, April, May. And so that also gave us an idea, okay, we're heading in the right direction. We also took a leap of faith during that time. We created our website pretty quick and we said, okay, well, let's do summer camp. And we opened registration, and by March we had about 5 registrations, and it was like, okay, this is happening.
Wow.
We
Hang on.
You know, this
Hang
is
on.
happening. So, you know, we did what we needed to do. We got our small business insurance, which was a little difficult because they would hear the word drone and they'd be like, children, kids, and drones. Yeah, no. Finally,
Yeah.
and finally we got somebody to say yes. And we've been with them ever since. And then the school districts were like, you know what, the school districts are very hungry right now. Not just the school districts, but private schools, they're hungry for new programs. So they gave us a chance too. And yeah.
So then from I guess the initial experimentation with friends and your children, then how did the curriculum come about?
Oh yeah, that's good stuff. So there are different communities for coding. Because coding is so popular with educators right now, it is really helping educators be able to, so you have, you know, your just standard curriculum, you know, your TEKS, Texas Education Standards, and whatnot. And every state, every school has this standard that they want to meet. But typically what's happening with our children nowadays having such an advantage to having so much tech and being able to just be so broad with how they learn, educators are really looking for supplemental ways to teach and to really drive home the topics or whatever, what the subjects. So these communities are everywhere and for everything from flying drones and, you know, building drones or whatever. And so in part of our initial research to see if this was going to work, we found that there are lots of communities out there and teachers have been trying to integrate, not as a whole, but drones have shown a lot of interest in their classroom settings. So when they would have drone week per se, you know, the teachers were like, oh my goodness, the kids learned, you know, they learned their math skills soared, their engineering skills, you know, they're thinking outside the box. So they really like the drone week per se. So it was really easy for me because I've been a teacher and an administrator on how to write a curriculum based on just what I know and what I wanted my students to master, and then alongside being in these education communities for coding, you know, what their children are mastering. And then just with my son, I would write a lesson plan and we'd sit on the carpet and I'd say, is this fun? And he's like, no, this is not fun. Okay, well, what would make it fun? And I would say about 50% of our lessons are kid-based, truly kid-based lessons, because I have either with him or tried them with my students. And some of our students, you know, I'll give them a lesson and kids are so amazing. They'll say, this would be better if we did this instead. And
Awesome.
now we have a whole nother lesson. So that's been the fun part for me is, knowing what the core needs to be, but also letting the children have a lot of input and parents too.
Gotcha. So idea happens. We're mad dashing. Everybody's hanging on. We get curriculums in place, and instead of fall, it's now summer, and things are moving along. And so, to take a step back, though, what probably interested me the most was the name, DroneGenius.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
You could have probably named this anything else. So let's talk about a little bit about the name. Like, what went behind the name? What went into it? Who did what?
Yeah. So I started with I started mapping out what the name could be, and I started with the concept of what we wanted to make sure we let parents know when they saw the name,
Right.
what their children were going to be getting into, but that it needed to also be something exciting for the kid if they saw the name as well, and it needed to be something that was appealing to educators and the people that opened the door for courses like us to come in.
Right.
So we knew that it needed to encapsulate drones, education, coding, fun. That would kind of cover all the bases. Came up with 3 or 4 different names. Robin didn't like them and told me why. She was right on every single one of them. We landed on one name that we both loved. We loved it a lot. I don't remember what it was, but it's taken. We did the research and found that it had not only had somebody earmarked the website, but they'd
Right.
also trademarked the name as well.
Ah.
So it was in full use, and it wasn't somebody in education, it was somebody doing some other type of field,
Right.
but unusable. So I said, all right, hon, I'm out of ideas. Ball's in your court. And within like 60 seconds, she said, how about DroneGenius?
Well, it was because while you were talking, I was researching. So I was
that's right.
multitasking.
That's right. She was listening and working all at the same time.
Imagine that.
Yeah, she's a unicorn. So-
A unicorn.
She threw out the name
Real life.
DroneGenius. In real life, she's here.
In real life, she's here.
You're welcome.
And then so we did some quick research to find out if it was taken, if it was in use anywhere,
Right.
and not at all. It was golden.
Yeah.
So we went ahead and we launched the website using that name. We built business cards. We started it into the stream of commerce as quick
Right.
as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we went to go by the website,
Mm-hmm.
and
You figured out the .com was
the .com was taken,
right.
which was our first clue that the name had been used by somebody, but it's in use by somebody that only does aerial footage.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, completely different field than
Right.
what we do.
Mm-hmm.
100% different.
Yeah.
So there's no, there would be no competition as far as, us overlaying or anything like that. So we decided to just still forge ahead. We ended up trademarking the name itself because through research I found that they had not trademarked the name,
Well, there you go.
and that's going to be an important endeavor for us
Right.
as time wears on and as we grow as a company. So we went ahead and trademarked the name, and that's officially done, trademark. And but the .org, yeah,
Right.
.com had been purchased, but not in use. It was one of those ones that were just parked,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and so we had to find out if we wanted to do .cc, .net, whatever.
Right.
And we made the choice to go with .org because we're an education business, and because of the weight that it holds in the education
Right.
industry. So it worked kind of to our
Interesting.
benefit.
Interesting, because that's one of the things. Obviously, in business, you hear so many different times: .com, 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 and rightfully so. I mean, it's very much like physical real estate. You speak about location, 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 and so it's been ingrained especially within our generation, coming online, that you inadvertently type .com behind things when you go on the web. Now, obviously, with voice search coming into play, domains are not necessarily, I'm not going to say that they are less important or not important at all. They're losing some importance to a certain extent because you're using voice to say, hey, go search for whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Select the first option. But then I pivot from that to go, even though you couldn't get .com, I think what you said is certainly correct, is that with it being an education background, .org is often familiar. I mean, very familiar. within the education realm, because you have a lot of charities, foundations, educational foundations that lean towards the .com. Obviously, you can't get the .edu because that's more of a restricted domain, reserved for credentialed education agencies and whatnot. So, so interesting that you found DroneGenius Unicorn, DroneGenius, then .org, and so what have you noticed from just operating this business on the .org? Has there been really any difference that you've encountered by chance, or with people remembering the name or not remembering it?
That's a good question. I think that when I encounter people and I tell them, look us up, and they'll say, oh, okay, DroneGenius.com, and I'm like, .org. I felt like in the beginning it was more .org. And people didn't question that. They were like, oh, okay. But I think I agree with you with now everything kind of being more voice generated. People aren't really focused on it anymore.
Right,
It's just like, and then, we kind of watched the trend on Google and, which every good business should do. Okay, type in DroneGenius, what comes up? In the beginning it was this other company, and now I don't ever see them. So it's not a concern for me. When I talk to people, they will sometimes say, oh, .org because you're education, or are you nonprofit? We'll kind of get into that. And our goal is to eventually get into more of that, and we do some nonprofit things, so it just works. So, yeah, it's not been a huge issue.
So Z, like, really no pushback.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to confuse people.
Right.
I don't think I've heard one story of a parent saying, or a school saying, hey, I tried to look you up and I couldn't find you when I typed in .com.
Right.
Nothing. It's worked.
And I think that's also a testament to the importance of name selection.
Yeah.
Because had you been drone something or something else that may be similar to another company in that same line of fire, if you will, then that just breeds all sorts of confusion, and you're breeding or bleeding leads over to someone else's business, which will put you out of business only a matter of time. So I think that's awesome that when you have the name choice, but even though you didn't have the .com, that you had the .org, and it plays very well within the lane that you're running. So then kind of segueing here, so let's talk about the business model. Now, obviously you mentioned not a not-for-profit, was not the organization, so you are a for-profit organization. So let's get into that business model of why you selected that path, and then what it's afforded you in terms of being able to go to school districts.
Well, I think that initially we selected that path because we wanted to just to be honest, this was going to be my career.
Yeah.
At the time I was working, and like I said, we started this in February, and it was just going to be a part-time thing. By August, I had to resign from my job, which was like, oh, okay. Because it had taken off to a point. We knew that we wanted to do more with nonprofit at some point, but to get us started, this was just what it was. We also wanted to make sure that it was going to be something that was going to work, because we do have such a heart for nonprofit. When we do launch more of the nonprofit side of DroneGenius, failure will not be an option. We would rather fail on this end of it, if that were going to happen, than on that end of it, because we do have such a heart for helping people. We're working with some dear friends right now to start incorporating more and to make ourselves into some type of nonprofit. I know that there are different ways you can do that. Seth can answer more of that. But currently we do have a scholarship that we offer at every school.
Nice.
And that falls, even if that scholarship is taken, we'll still consider a student if the parent has a need, to reach out to us and for us to consider that.
Yeah. So I think to answer your question, how has that kind of shaped our structure as far as like our relationships with school districts and everything? I think because of the market that we're in, which is an after-school summer camp program, most companies that do it are for-profit. Some are nonprofit, or have an arm that's nonprofit. So number one, there wasn't really any pushback about that. But an added layer, that we didn't add because we wanted to strengthen the relationships or open doors. We added it because of family history, the scholarship. But that definitely was an added layer that helped us have better conversations with the administrators at these
Right.
schools and private schools and all that stuff for us to go ahead and get in. Several years ago, Robin's little brother passed away unexpectedly. He was in his mid-20s, and his name was Roosevelt, and we still love and miss him dearly. And when we first started the concept of DroneGenius, one of the first things she told me was, we will always have a scholarship in Roosevelt's name. So that's something that we've always made sure is a bullet point that we cover with every new relationship. We tell them we want to find a student in every single class that we teach that could benefit from the Roosevelt Scholarship.
Wow.
And we've been able to use it.
Yeah, we
It's been
used
great.
it right off the bat with, we worked with the CPS system here in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a child who was in their care, but attended one of the schools that we were hosting a summer camp through, and he had seen us at one of our demo days.
Huh.
And he had expressed to his CPS worker, this program is so cool, I love it, but I'm in the CPS system.
Right.
And his counselor actually reached out to us, and and we took care of it. We've been blessed to do that on several other occasions, and it really is our honor. Roosevelt was an amazing person. He loved children. He loved tech. He used to be up there screaming at that video game. So this would have just made him so happy, and it is a way for us to keep his spirit and his legacy alive. And then, the kids will often sometimes ask, because I also have a drone named after him, and they'll say, who is this person? And I get to tell them about him, and they just feel connected to me, and they feel connected to us, and it's just a beautiful thing. So.
Wow. Now you mentioned reach in terms of, you mentioned obviously being here in Austin, but what is DroneGenius's reach in terms of how far, how wide, where do we go?
So, enter Robin once again. People, this is real. We were going to launch in the fall, locally. By summertime, we had summer camps lined up all throughout Austin and in Georgia, which is not in Texas.
So Texas, Georgia.
So that was just that first summer, but since then we are all throughout the Austin area.
Wow.
In a couple of school districts, some private schools. We are in Georgia at a private school. We are in New York at 2 private schools currently, and by the summertime, this summer, we've already contracted to do 4 private schools in the Manhattan area.
Wow.
We also have 2 New Jersey private schools, and we just added another school that's somewhere in New York.
It's in Oyster Bay.
Oyster Bay.
Wow.
Yes.
And then we have
California.
Atherton, California.
Mm-hmm.
Getting
We're
around.
in the school district as well.
Getting
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Menlo Park there, so
That's right.
it's exciting because that is a tech hub.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's
Yep.
exciting, and
Yeah.
we want to do more. There's only 2 of us though.
Well, we do have
now.
staff in the New York area.
Yeah, we
that
have
are,
staff,
we have
Right.
teachers, we have instructors.
and in California too.
Yeah.
I was about to ask, how does that work out? Because you said, hey, we're here, and I'm like, no, wait. No, you're in this room, you're with me right now, so how is it that you're
Listen.
everywhere?
So that's funny because people at church, they'll be like, but I saw on Facebook you were in New York yesterday and you're here at church praising the Lord. Yes, I am. So because of my unicorn skills, I am able to be in multiple places. I might be here today and in New York tomorrow. I travel a lot. So, but because of our schedules and our children, and when we launched and people received us so fast, it was like, okay, so for the first year, every Friday, I would wake up at 4 a.m. And I would go to the airport and I would fly to New York and I would be there all day, teach our classes, and take an 8 o'clock flight and come home and be back in my bed by 12 o'clock. Did that for a year.
This is the hardest working person I've ever met.
Wow.
So it was crazy, but it was.
But worth it.
It's so worth it, and we have been so well received in New York. Austin too, California as well, but New York has been extremely good to us, and it reminds me of the song, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
Yeah.
And that is so true, because it is a hard city, it's a cold city, it's a hot city, and you know, it's just been good. So I'm just now coming down off of that, and it was because our program is so important to us that when we hire people, we don't just say, okay, if you've got 2 legs, 2 arms, you can work for us. We would have people that would come in and, you know, they would give it their best, but this is a program of excellence.
Right.
And what we offer our students, when we tell them you're going to be in DroneGenius, we expect for our providers, our teachers, our counselors to execute that to the best of their ability. So it's important for me that when we hire people that I support them. You know, I don't just say, okay, you're hired and, you know, here's your equipment, here's your curriculum. I'm there to walk them through it, to be able to help them troubleshoot so that they can be the best that they can be at DroneGenius as well.
Wow.
So that meant me going every week, week after week, for many weeks, to New York and to California. There was a couple of times I was in San Francisco, and I would fly overnight to get to New York on time, and then be back here to support him at something, or the kids at football. But you know, when your heart is in it, it doesn't look like anything. It just looks like a couple hours of no sleep, but you'll get over it.
Yeah.
You will. So.
So we're in California,
Or
Texas.
sleepwalking.
Yeah, that too. That too.
We're in all these states, and she's been doing a lot of traveling, but we're blessed to have great staff that she was able to handpick.
Wow.
And because of her 15 years of being the boss in these private schools where she was hiring teachers, she understands what a good teacher looks like
Yeah.
when she meets them.
Yeah.
And she has picked some wonderful people. We love our teachers.
That's awesome. So then the flip side of that, obviously you have the teachers, you have awesome teachers. Let's talk a bit about the students. So obviously we start mixing coding, we start talking about drones, but it's really more than that. And obviously you alluded to a bit of it in terms of your brother Roosevelt, in terms of being able to share that story. But then, you know, what do students get outside of this, or in addition to just the coding and the drone experience? I mean, is it life skills that they can transfer? What is it?
Oh, this is the
this
fun
program
part.
brings?
This is the part that literally every time I end a session, I shed a few tears, because it's been so magical to be able to, you know, we start with these children and we have the intent of learning how to code a drone, and that's why they sign up with us.
Right.
But we make them work in pairs, and we do that strategically because we've seen a pattern where children, you know, because of their devices and phones and switches and all that, they tend to not have good social skills or interactive skills with other people. When it comes time for them to problem solve, it's like, what does that look like?
Right.
Alvin, if we need to solve a problem and get out of a panic room together, well, all I know to do is Google that, because that's all I do. So we saw a need to be able to really make children, okay, they love technology.
Right.
Not a problem there, because that's just where we're at. But there's also a lack of being able to talk and to interact. So they have to work in pairs. And sometimes when they start, they're like, I don't want to work with nobody else. I'm like, well, then you're going to need to go and let your mom know, and no, there's no refunds, that you don't want to work with another child. But in the end, it's such a beautiful thing. We've seen children that could not stand each other, just love each other. And
now they're besties.
Oh my goodness, they're besties.
Absolutely.
They're hitting the challenges. They're winning.
Wow.
Yeah.
We provide an avenue for healthy competition with children, and sometimes it gets a little unhealthy. I'm okay with that. That's how winners are born.
That's how unicorns come to
That's how unicorns come to life.
That's how you get your horn.
Right? Mm-hmm. You have to beat the other person. But it's not just that. There's one student in particular who has taken every single DroneGenius session.
Wow.
And she loves drones, but she loves me more, and she loves the interaction. And I asked her one day, I was like, why do you keep signing up for this class, and every time we start doing the challenges, you're just over here hanging on to me and hugging on me? And she said, I just love you, and I just love the class. So we love the fact that we have a program where it is okay to let children know that they are safe.
Yeah.
That this is more like a club and a healthy club, not like a gang of children playing Fortnite. Nothing against Fortnite. But it's a healthy environment for them to learn. And of course, we're hitting on all the STEM, and that engineering piece of their brain is being, cultivated, and they're budding in that area. But it's just a healthy, fun, safe, they know that I'm going to be there. They know that their counselor's going to be there. She's going to give them a few minutes to just talk about what they did at Thanksgiving. That's important. When we train our teachers, we tell them, create a relationship with these children. Yes, we're teaching them how to code drones, but create a relationship with these students. And it is okay if students come into the class and they're having an off day, and you may not get to do anything that day, but the fact that they trust you enough to know that we're having an off day, we're going to get through this hour together, is okay. And that's been important for us. So.
That is awesome. So it reminds me so much of the book, Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I look at it, I go, you're helping kids get to that tipping point, not only from a coding technology standpoint, but even just from an interpersonal standpoint.
Absolutely.
Of we're getting you hours of social development, life skills to actually prep you. Now, knowing that obviously you see hands-on the kids first, initial response to that, but then what do parents say?
Good question. So one of our biggest supporters in New York, at our school at Lamont Manhattan Prep, they've been so awesome. But we had one child, and he's a big techie, and I think he was an only child. And he had gone home and told his parents one day, we had a great day in class, but my partner wasn't sharing with me. And his mom, went and talked to the director of the school and said, he needs to make sure he has a turn. And, the director said, in support of DroneGenius, this is teaching children how to socialize and just how to be in a healthy environment. Yes, they're coding, they're flying drones, but it's also teaching them respect.
Right.
So back off, and he supported us in that way. But that was the only parent feedback that we've ever had like that. The other parents are like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're like the Pied Piper. Our children, like I had one class that ended a session ago, and the kid was like, please come out to the car and talk to my dad. And I was like, I don't want to get in that. But his dad said, well, why don't we try something else? You've been in this class twice. And he's like, no, this is what I want to do. So, parents email us all the time. The school districts are really good about getting parent surveys just to hear what they have to say, and providing us with that feedback. And right now the feedback looks like, why can't you offer more time? Can you do 3 days instead of 1? Before we can even open a session, like right now, the enrollment begins with Leander ISD. They're wanting to enroll to make sure that their children have a spot, because in each session, we don't do a whole lot of spots. We want to make sure that the children have as much individual attention from me or the counselor as possible, with not having wall-to-wall kids. So the parents are like, we want to enroll now. Can I just send you a check? And I'm like, hold on. Everybody hold on.
Checks coming in from everywhere. It's like, wait.
Hold on to your money. Pause. So parents really want their children to have the opportunity. They also want to know, okay, if they take this again, are they leveling up? We have been able to level up. But because of the good problem that we have of students re-enrolling and re-enrolling, we will create we'll start this in the fall, I promise.
It's on video.
It's
With
exactly. It's timestamp.
Timestamp now.
I worked.
Yes.
Okay.
It's timestamp.
Unicorn.
Yeah. It's in
Trapped in time.
Right. This is
There
in
we
development.
go.
Okay,
That's right.
so I've worked with our partners, our schools, with Round Rock, Leander, our private schools in New York, and said it's been a good problem, but we have students that constantly re-enroll. We want to be fair to them. And parents also want to know, okay, if I'm paying for them to be in, they're going to level up. So
Right.
we're creating what we call DroneGenius Pro. That will start maybe in the summer. And that will give a prerequisite for when students sign, when parents sign their students up. They'll have to answer a few questions. Have they taken DroneGenius, yes or no? And then we will enroll them in what we call DroneGenius Pro. That is the biggest parent concern and they're glad to send them back. But as
Right.
long as, of course, with anything else, they're leveling up. They're still learning. They're still, their imagination is growing, and there's plenty to do out there in the drone world for us to be able to offer that to students.
Right. So it's most people in business, they have the initial problem. What's first?
Mhm.
What's first? What do we come up with? What are we putting out there for customers? How are we reaching, serving customers? But you all have long passed what's first. It seems like what's next?
Yes.
What's next?
Yes.
What's next? What's next? So you have a lot of people that are essentially, it's not necessarily you leading them as much as it's probably them knocking at the door going,
Mhm.
We're
We want
learning.
more, we
We're
want more,
learning
we want more.
from the families we're starting to get a hint of what's coming next by the
Awesome.
way that they're responding to what we're giving them now.
Wow.
They love it, they want more of it, they want it to be bigger and broader. So that has sparked our ideas to flow in on, okay, how can we stretch this further for those families?
Right. So now, in terms of age wise, so let's kind of get some structure or at least some visibility around. You say you have camps, you say you have sessions, but what does this really look like and what does it entail? So at what age level can someone expect? It's like, I have 3 kids, 6, 4, and 2. Can any of them begin that course?
No.
Exactly. So, which is I go, it's a good thing for me because I don't have to go out and start buying drones. But at the same time, when would Ian, so for example, my oldest, he's 6, when would he be able to begin, I guess you'd say, to register and get involved in DroneGenius?
His second semester of 2nd grade.
Okay.
So what?
So that's not bad.
Right. So they start 2nd grade,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still like trying to figure it out.
Right.
But there's a magic that happens after the holiday break. So like now, if a child has been in 2nd grade for at least this first semester,
Uh-huh.
now they can start DroneGenius.
Wow. And then where do you plan to build that? So from 2nd grade to...
Well, initially it was 2nd to 5th, but
We
now,
currently do 2nd through 5th.
yeah.
Gotcha.
But we had some middle school girls that were heading into middle school join us for summer camp in New York this summer, and yeah, we might be going to middle schools now.
We're in conversations right now with one of the schools up there about launching a middle school program.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And what does that program consist of? So is it, hey, we get 6 weeks or a 1 week or 1 day a week or 2 days a week? What does the
Yeah.
curriculum and program
Just to
consist of?
put it simply, it's during the school year, there's 6-week sessions.
Okay.
They come for 1 hour once a week for 6 weeks. So they get essentially 6 hours each session.
Gotcha.
There's 2 sessions every long semester. So in the fall there's 2, in the spring there's 2. In the summer times we do a couple of different things. We do a 3-hour summer camp. They come every day for a week for the morning or the afternoon, or they do a full day summer camp. So it's 5 days and they're with us an entire day for
Wow.
5 days in a row.
And so then how do, I guess, parents now, is that through the school district or is that your own, is that your own program or, so basically let's say you have DroneGenius here that you run your own camps and whatnot, or is that within that school district that
It's-
a child has to go through?
Luckily for us, we've partnered with school districts and private schools that do what we would have done anyway. It works
Perfect.
great. We think that 6-week session in the
Right.
long semester is a great nugget, and then either the 3-hour summer camp or a full day summer camp, it's a great way to introduce and teach and that kind of thing. So it really is just kind of what's baked in already to the education world. That's how they've been doing things for a long time. And again, luckily for us, that's what we would have done anyway, because she's been an educator for so long. She already knew that's what we were going to be looking at. So
Interesting.
we've drafted our curriculum and the way that we run our camps around that type of time frame.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, obviously, you're a husband and wife duo, and so kind of wrapping up here, is there any advice that you would give to husband and wives that are thinking about or dreaming about going into business together? I mean, is there any tidbits, any advice that you could say, oh, don't do this, or you might want to consider this?
Sure. So I'll give the first bit of advice, which is give the wife the microphone first.
Thank you. Oh, you want me to actually talk? Oh, I'm at a loss. No, I think that it's just been with wisdom and
Right.
time, just with us knowing just how business works. You really have to separate the two. We literally will say DroneGenius on, DroneGenius off, and just being able to respect that. And yes, we do have disagreements, but those disagreements are in the DroneGenius box, and we don't let DroneGenius disagreements bleed into Robin and Seth disagreements, or Robin and Seth disagreements bleed into DroneGenius, and it takes a level of maturity to do that and trust for each other. So
Yeah, that's true.
Wow. And how do you meld the strengths of one another? Because obviously, I think this is that beautiful pairing that we're seeing culminate here out of the story.
We were on a road trip one time, a really long road trip, and I think we were driving to Georgia the first time to host camps. And we were pretty early in because it was that first summer, and we realized that like an email would come in and we both would be responding to it at the same time. We had to sit down, just like with any organization or business, and say, okay, these are our strengths, and we had to be honest and say, Robin, you're not that good at that, or Seth, you're not that good at that. And we wrote it down in a notebook on a piece of paper that I still have, thank you very much. And we created organizational duties. So, and we really try to respect that. And if we are going to go over, or if we feel like,
about to get in your lane.
If I'm about to get in your lane, we really respect each other enough to say, can I help you with that? You seem like you have a lot going on. Or the last couple of times you messed up on those invoices, so you either need to get it together or you need to let me do it. Yes, that's a real conversation.
But it's me telling you that.
I was just role playing. Role playing for the people so they can see my actor skills.
I love how you just did that.
Anyhow.
Only unicorns can do it.
Oh,
Only unicorns can do it that well.
So, but
that's awesome.
however, but it's just really a level of trust. And when we do, like when we realized that we had a problem with, all these students enrolling, we had to say, we have to stop. And we have got to get quiet. Owning a business is almost like being an artist. You have to find that space where you can be creative and come up with what helps your customers. And so taking the time to do that is something that we've forced each other to do and stay in a healthy space with marriage and as business partners.
Wow.
Yeah. I would lend two pieces of advice to anybody, a husband and wife team that are about to start a business. Number one, find someone that's smarter than you, that's outside of your personal sphere of your relationship.
Right.
They can sort of give you wisdom and guidance, because there are going to be pinnacle moments where you are both going to either be at odds with what you should do moving forward about a big decision, or you might both be in agreement, but it's such a big decision that you need an outside party filled with wisdom that can let you know what their thought process would be.
Right.
And then you can take that into account.
So a bit of oversight.
Some oversight, exactly. The second thing that I would offer up for folks who are going to be starting a business as a husband and wife team is absolute, unadulterated honesty with one another. Gotcha. Honesty with yourself about what you're not good at and what you're good at. And honesty with your spouse about what they're good at and not good at. And to just be open about that, because that is the first step of being able to assign who takes what task.
Right.
Everybody has a path that they just flourish in. And they can take the ball and run it all the way down to the end zone. And then they've got a path that they think they can run the ball with, but they're going to get sacked every single time.
It's that, I got it, until you don't have it.
Got it, yeah.
And then you're like, I thought I had it.
Yeah. And it's just, it's biblical. Let your yeses be yes, let your no's be no.
Right.
Yeah, and just be honest with one another. And we've done that with this, and it's been a really great journey, I think because of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's been good.
Interesting.
It's been good, yeah.
So is there anything else that you all would like to share?
Well, I think that because we've been afforded this opportunity and we appreciate you guys, indulging us on this journey for this however long it's been, we'd like to offer any of you out there who are in the New York area or visiting. We have customers that are visiting and decide that they want their children to take part in summer camp. We will be at Lamont, Manhattan this summer. That's in the downtown area. It's one of the premier private schools in the Manhattan area that has partnered with us. We will be there in August for 3 weeks, and
Okay.
anyone listening today can take part and get a 10% off discount using the code podcast. If they go to DroneGenius.org, they'll see the weeks there and they can choose. They don't have to go all 3 weeks, but they can go for a week or 3 weeks. But we'd like to invite you just to join us this summer out there. Of course, we'll have summer camps in other areas, but that one is definitely set in stone, and we're ready to rock with them. So we'd love to see you guys there and your little ones. It's a lot of fun. They won't regret it.
And dads, no, you cannot go.
No.
Sorry.
Oh, come on.
Don't even
Every
ask.
dad asks. No,
Don't
you
even ask.
cannot go,
No.
dads.
And need a chaperone. You
Yeah,
sure?
right.
No, drop and go. Thank you very much. We will feed your child and send them home.
And
So,
go.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
that's
fun.
good.
Yeah.
That is good. Well, then, in terms of folks getting in contact with you, how might someone get in contact with you? You know, just watching this and they go, "Hey, I'm definitely, I'm an administrator at a private school or wherever,
Sure.
and I want to get in contact." What do they need to do?
yeah, you can email us at admin@dronegenius.org. Of course, dronegenius.org has all of that information on there as well. That's the best way to get in touch with me because I'm always working. Unicorns don't sleep.
Is that true?
It's true. It's really true.
It's like, I might have to Google that.
Right.
Don't sleep. And there's Robin's picture. I don't sleep.
I
Right.
see you.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
we'd love to talk with you. We're looking to add more programs and kids and, even just advice for other people that are getting involved in business. We're here to be very open and transparent with you about our process and journey. So it's been good.
Well, good deal. Good deal. With that, we're out of time, and so Seth and Robin, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being transparent, sharing your story with the world and with our listeners. And listeners, thank you. Watchers, thank you for joining Kickstart Commerce, where we share search marketing and domain name investing strategies to help grow your business. So please subscribe to Kickstart Commerce, the YouTube channel, as well as subscribe to this podcast via Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or however you choose to listen. And last but not least, please visit kickstartcommerce.com. And in the right-hand corner, there is a form that you can sign up for the Daily Scoop newsletter, where I share digital strategy disciplines to help you grow your business. So with that, we look forward to seeing you in the next interview. Thanks, and that's all for now.